a pleasure to welcome Dra. Gabriella Gutiérrez.
Enfrente a lo mejor. Yeah. You can hear me, all of you? Yes. Yeah. Wonderful. Welcome to How Many Indians Can We Be? It's a bilingual collection. I'll read to you how I introduced the collection of poetry first. You are, aside from my students, the first people to hear me read from this collection. I am so very grateful, so very grateful. I have a current student, a former student, my dear friend, Raul, who saw that because of COVID, you know, for a lot of us writers, because of COVID, we're not getting the readings that we used to get when our books are launched. But Raul is like that. He just works behind the scenes and makes things happen for all of us. And I really treasure people like Raul. Thank you. Making community. Before I begin, and then I will just continue reading, I have half an hour. I want to thank my husband too. My ride tonight, my girlfriend, we were going to go, you know, have dinner and then come to the reading, and she got sick. But I can always count on my backup, which is my husband, Muhs, who's always there for me. And of course, he records everything. So it is recorded. I began the collection with a poem from actually the 15th century, which is Netzahualcoyotl, a pre-Columbian poet. And I have a quote from an excerpt from one of his poems. I will create a work of art. I am a poet, and my song will endure on earth. I will be remembered for my songs. Of course, I marked everything, but now it's not marked anymore. About this collection. I began writing the poems included in this collection, How Many Indians Can We Be? ¿Cuántos indios podemos ser? On the plane to India, as I represented the United States, along with 2 other American poets for the Kriti International Poetry Festival held in Nagpur, Maharashtra, India in 2011. But they're certainly not simply about India, but instead about indigeneity, colonization, social class, immigration, commonalities between cultures, and more. I'm very grateful to Flower Song Press for allowing me to present my work in both English and Spanish. This collection is about togetherness. Sari or rebozo exemplifies aesthetically and semantically the communion of 2 opposite cultures through a traditional feminine garment. The other poems attempt to dispel stereotypes, unmask intracultural tensions with contradictory humor, and confront the many paper cuts of colonization found within the pages of both Mexican, Indian, and U.S. history. It is only in the territory of irony that we could understand that Latinx, Chicanx, and Indian could signify so many cultures, identities, and subjectivities, as well as different races packed in a linguistic burrito, or should we say, anan, or curry. Colonization minimizes entire cultures. two of which are Mexican and Indian. We can see some of the results of these colonizations in this collection. As silly as the term Latinx is in conflating the peoples in plural of more than 20 countries into one, for the purpose of cataloging Latinos geographically for US government agencies in the early 70s, it is problematic. It confuses many Americans who might include the European notion of Latin, as in Southern Europe. In a parallel paradigm, the term Indian is also problematized by an entire nation of more than 1 billion. It is a given that under different circumstances and for varied reasons, people did not name themselves, but were named Indian in the past, except for Native Americans recently naming themselves Indian in the interest of not being appropriated by North America. I realized the contradiction of this semantic atrocity years ago while listening to my sons claim to their East Indian friend as we passed by a totem pole that they were Indians. Their friend, an upper-class Brahmin child, dismissed their 7-year-old affirmations by stating that he was more Indian than them. Truly, both of their responses were results both of an earlier colonization and an internal colonization, which Chicanic scholars have written about for at least the last 60 years. But I also think it is important to look at my poetry collection intersectionally, for I also address social class, experience, healing, the environment, privilege, and gender as issues that diversify my poetic voice. We're still not post-colonial, as we would like to believe. I hope these poems inspired by a first look at India in the early 21st century, developed over the last 10 years, as well as my entire experience of traveling back and forth as migrant and immigrant scholar, student, and researcher to Mexico, will bring pleasure, laughter, tears, and joy, as well as a few affirmations to each other. The eye that gazes into many doors resurrects expectations. And I was going to begin from the beginning, but I think I'll begin from the end. It's more interesting. And I will take questions at the end. This is called Luna, Coyolxauhqui, Don't Break Today, No Te Quiebres. And it is to the moon. Luna means moon. You have been made out of cheese, I know, measured and squeezed, landed upon, valued and devalued all along. Won't you just be for me, just be? Do your right-hand cartwheels for you. Eat a satellite or two, or not. Dream with the earth, the ocean, skinny dipping inside each other. Misunderstood, you are moon. It is not your job to educate an illiterate earth. A ferocious sun. Mentally ill stars. The pronouns of their languages unknown to us. Don't break your back carrying ignorance. Deserts or deserts. And this has some French in it, as French is my third language. So I will try to translate a little bit. Deserts or deserts. I have been to deserts of more than me. I have been to the deserts of my own continents of misery. No, ce n'est pas la chanson des misérables que je chante. No es la canción de los miserables que canto. Autour des invalides qui peuvent encore chanter. alrededor de los inválidos que todavía pueden cantar. C'est peut-être que le soleil de midi nous rend aveugles. It's probably the midday sun that renders us blind. L'Afrique nous attend avec sa clarté, son élégance, qui n'est pas encore ramassée. Africa awaits with its clarity, its elegance, que todavía no se recoge. Nous ne mangerons pas les serpents du futur. We will not eat the serpents of the future. Les desserts que j'ai trouvés glorifiés. Si le chihuahua ou dessert de Sonora était en Angleterre, alors là, on les aurait déjà domestiqués. If the Sonora or Chihuahua deserts were in England, oh, there, they would have been already domesticated. Quand je dis dessert, je ne veux pas dire qui sert le dessert. Non, je ne veux pas remuer ce mousse qui me taquine. Le Colorado Plateau, Mojave, Columbia Plateau m'attendent, Atacama, Death Valley, Great Basin, Patagonie m'attendent. La mémoire, c'est comme un cordeau dans lequel on plonge chaque jour. Memory is like a body of water in which we dive every day, sans écrire le jour ou la minute qui nous donnera ce cours d'eau. La memoria es como un cuerpo de agua en el cual uno se echa un clavado todos los días, sin escribir el día o el minuto que nos dará ese cuerpo de agua, comme si on allait en reverse dans un camion lourd qui te permet seulement d'aller en arrière plus lentement que d'attraper le futur, as if we were reversing on a heavy semi-truck, which allows you only to go backwards slowly to track the future. Je m'excuse, les cauchemars n'ont pas encore fini. Me disculpo, las pesadillas no han terminado. I excuse myself. Nightmares have not ended yet. I wanted to read this one. One of my students started crying when I read this. And I didn't know it was so powerful, but I think when we hear other people read our poems, they become so much stronger. This is for John T. Williams. I know all of you, or some of you know, he was a person that was killed, a Native American man, our martyr in Seattle. Totem. In 7 seconds, carve me a man who will not kill you for using a knife to eat. Carve me a heaven where death is not a crime, where knife is not a gun, where walking is not unusual, a native is not foreign, and 4 shots are not discharged in your direction for being. When I got on the plane, I always write a poem for those of you poets in the audience. I recommend that you write poems when you get on a bus or on a plane. It's my most creative moment. I want to read you this one because it's a little bit funny. So here I got to India, and I thought I was so good at crossing cultures. And of course, every time I go abroad, I take salmon from Seattle, those boxes of salmon from Bartels, and jams and honey, and that's what I take to people because it's Seattle, right? Well, I was going mostly, I spent time in central India in Mumbai, but I was spending most of my time in Chennai, which most people there are not only vegetarian, they're vegan. And I suffered very much to get those boxes of salmon through customs because they wanted to open them. So I said, you are not going to open them. And I sat on my army bag, like this, protecting my salmon. And unbeknownst to me, when I got to Chennai and wanted to give my gifts to people, nobody wanted my salmon.